This is Never Down, Never Out with T.R. Matson. This podcast is about discipline when motivation fades, resilience when things get hard, and showing up when quitting would be easier. No hype, no shortcuts, just the mindset required to build something real. One day at a time. Let's get into it. Welcome back. Never down, never out. Here we go. I'm trying to stay positive today. I'm a little bit worn out, a little tired, just the way things are going in the home life and trying to balance this and everything else. So I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet today and get this recorded and get it out to you. And hopefully it helps, but we'll see here shortly. So episode 40, which is pretty cool. I remember 10 days ago when I did episode 30, it felt like a big deal. So we're trucking along. I'm definitely in the grind phase of this, trying to figure out if this is really making a difference, to do this all the time and keep putting it out there, or if it's, hey, it was a cool experiment to do and we'll move on to something else. So there's only so many hours in a day, as everybody knows. So just trying to maximize those hours while I can. So the topic today is an important one. It's called Why Simple Works the Best, right? And I alluded to this a couple days ago, I think, or at least I did in my head. Can't keep it all straight, but in the military, anybody who's been in the military, we had the mantra of KISS, keep it simple, stupid, which was just our play on it. We're not necessarily calling people stupid, although maybe we are, who knows. But the why simple works the best is important. And I can use an aviation analogy, and I'll use this podcast as well. So in aviation and training, I tried so hard early on to study without I was trying to overdo it, and went through API down in Pensacola, aviation pre-flight indoctrination, 6 weeks of physical fitness and swimming and academics, and I did okay in the academics. I wouldn't say I necessarily crushed them, but I think looking back on it, it wasn't for lack of my intelligence. It was for my lack of how I organized my day. I was trying to learn everything, as opposed to just learning what I needed to for that phase or for that test or for whatever we were working on. And by doing that, and I had made that mistake in college as well, multiple times, I just didn't really know how to study, didn't really know how to prepare for things. And I think looking back, I probably would have done a lot better if I had kept it simple and just focused on, hey, this is what we're learning today. This is what I need for tomorrow. And I've said it before where, now 2 decades later, as an old man, or at least I feel like one today, so we'll see. I'm very specific in how I prepare for aviation related events. If I'm going through a full training syllabus, which I haven't done in some time, and have really no intention of doing, because I'm happy on the aircraft that I fly. But when I did it, I would always start with memory items, because those are the most important and the foundation for any pilot. So I would study those for the day. Then I would look at what I did either that day or the previous day, depending on the timing, what I could have done better. Then I look at what we're going to do the next day, and then finish with memory items. And that was it. Once I had done that, I was done preparing. Additionally, in aviation, there's things you can do that work in the real world, the non-aviation world, such as, preparing my publications, my charts, things like that. In the military, we always flew the knee board card, things like that. So, I would do those things and be prepared. And if I kept it simple like that and didn't worry about the future too much, I just worried about the next event, I usually did pretty well. So in other words, to use it to tie into that aviation analogy, to start day one of flight school and worry what it's like to land on an aircraft carrier doesn't do you any good. Or to try to prepare on day one for that doesn't do you any good, because there's so many steps between where you're at and where you're going that it really doesn't benefit you, and it just becomes convoluted and you end up wasting a lot of time. So I found that works the best. I get people that reach out occasionally to me and they ask things like, what about flight simulators or DCS or, varying different things to prepare for being a pilot. And really, I don't buy into a lot of that stuff. Like, if you're into it, it's cool. If that's your hobby, that's cool. I don't know if it's necessarily going to teach you good habits. The people often that struggled long-term in flight school were the ones that had flight time prior because they had habits. I didn't have any habits. So whatever the military was teaching me was my foundation. That was it. And there's something to be said for that, law of primacy wise. So that's the aviation side. Let's talk about the podcast, right? So obviously I know people that do podcasts with the writing. I've been on a handful of them. I see the background. I see the work they put in. And I don't think a lot of people really appreciate that. They think that people just hop on and do their thing and they're done. And it's really not that way. But I knew for this to be successful, or for me to keep at it, keep doing it, I needed to keep this very simple. So I recorded an intro, I recorded an outro, I picked which visuals I was going to use for the fade from the intro into the main body of the video, and conversely the outro. And once I figured out that type of stuff, it essentially became a situation where I could sit down for 15, 20 minutes, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, record. And as long as there's no distractions, there's no noise in the background, there's no glitches with the internet, I can then upload it, attach the intro and outro, and put it onto YouTube, Spotify, etc., and be done with it. And I knew that in order for something as ridiculous as a podcast a day to work, it had to be simple in my mind, or else life is just going to get to you and it's going to overwhelm you, and there's going to be excuses. And I heard it once say that, if there's something you want to do, there's nothing out there that can tell you you can't. And if there's something you don't want to do, there's almost everything out there that will get in your way. And I knew, over the course of a year, if I stick with this for that whole thing, there was going to be ups and downs. There's going to be family stuff. There's going to be work related stuff. There's going to be my own stuff. There's going to be, just there's things. So it had to be simple. And I think as we enter episode 40 here, there's at least an element of simplicity that has caused this to continue this long. Will it cause it to go for a full year or many years? I have no idea. I don't know what the future holds. But I can tell you that the only chance it has is by being simple. If I had to spend hours upon hours for each episode editing, there's no way that I would have gotten this far, let alone continue. So you have to look at what you're working on today and what goals you're setting forth and all that. And you really need to simplify them. I think that's huge, right? We get so bogged down with the details. We think about stuff. We think about our goals. We think about our dreams. We start running all these simulations in our mind as to how it could work out. And we end up wasting so much time doing all that we just could have gotten the task done at hand. And remember, when I talk, it's not this is not the glamorous phase that we're in, right? This is the work phase. This is the grind phase. This is you just got to put in the time and know that it's for a reason later on. That's what this phase is. And that's not pretty. it's tough. It's what usually kills most dreams, because you get to this point, and you realize that it felt good to think about the dream you had. It felt good to envision yourself successful. But then now it's like, I got to put in the work. Well, let's think about the work phase. And if we're going to be in that work phase for a while, which if you think about, any dream, there's the conception phase of the dream, and then there's the birth of the dream at the end where you succeed. The vast majority of the timeline of that dream is the work phase, where you're putting in the work to do the things you need to do to get to the end goal. Well, if we're going to be in that phase the longest, it behooves us to keep it as simple as we can during that phase. If, it's funny, weight loss is a good one, because I think a lot of people in their lives have wanted to lose weight or get in better shape. I mean, it's, I rope it all in together, and there is so many things out there, so many articles, so much knowledge, so much fluff out there on fitness, that you could make it so freaking difficult to lose weight. You could, or to get in better shape, or to get stronger. You can make it so hard, when in reality, it's pretty simple. It's calories in, calories out, drinking a lot of water, movement, some sort of resistance training. That's going to get you 95% of the way of where you want to go. If you want to hit an elite level, you want to be an athlete, you want to do something like that, sure. There's going to be more to it than that. But for the average person out there that's like, I want to get in better shape, I want to be thinner, I want to be more fit, whatever, however you define that, calories in, calories out, do some movement, drink some water. If you want a cherry on top, well, don't have a cherry on top of the ice cream. That also helps. But no, if you want a cherry on top, get good sleep, because that's when your body rebuilds. But we often get so bogged down in the latest fads and trends and what's going on and what people are doing, that it just kind of, it gets so complicated when it doesn't need to be. And I think that applies to darn near every goal out there. So I know I've seen it in aviation. I know I've seen it in my own fitness. I've seen it in finances, where I'm, okay, well, I could do this, and this. And it's like, you could take a look at how you're spending your money. You could take a look at how you're earning your money. And you could make sure that you're earning enough to cover the spending or change the spending, plus what you need to save. Pretty simple, Sure, there's get-rich-quick schemes out there and things like that sound good. I could make $1 billion. I had somebody come to me and for a $25,000 investment, you could make all this money and blah, blah, blah. And it sounded good, but as soon as I started peeling back the onion and doing some research, I knew the plan was just too complex. Like it wasn't going to be successful. I wanted it to be for the guy. He seemed like a nice guy, but it just seemed super complex. And I'll tell you, that was over a year ago. And well, I don't think it's gone anywhere, frankly. So oftentimes we're our own worst enemy when we make things complex. So today, as you look at what you're working on today in the immediate, and then in the near future and long-term future, think about it and go, hey, what can I do to make this plan as simple as possible so I could stick with it? Because simple plans lead themselves, to consistency. Simple plans lead themselves to consistency and help you do the work. And if you could do that today, you're well on your way to achieving your goals. Thanks for tuning in. I'm doing some revamps of some things on this. I'm taking a look at how I do things and the information I present, and we'll see where it goes. But if you have suggestions or things you like, things you hate, put them in the comments. I appreciate all the support, and I'll talk to you tomorrow and see if I still haven't had to shave because of work. Next time. If this episode helped you, Don't just listen, apply it. Progress is built in what you do after the message ends. Remember, never down, never out. I'll see you tomorrow.